There's been a lot of discussion about Bryce Young's performance as the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers and the jumps that he made from his 2023 rookie campaign into 2024 after he was benched very early in the season. And today, I'm here to break down his stats and give you insights to show you exactly how Bryce Young has improved year over year. We're spending a lot of time on Bryce Young this off season. Well, because I have a little bit more time to record content. It's slower. And you know what? Let's look at some film. Let's do some things. So, anyways, today we're going to look at some stats. To make this super easy to digest, I've made a few graphics to help us get through this. So let's dive right in. One, let's start with the 2023 stats: 2,877 passing yards, 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, 59.8% completion percentage, and 73.7 passer rating. Looking ahead to 2024, he finished with 2,403 yards, 15 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, 60.9% completion percentage, and a passer rating of 82.2. Now, you have to remember Bryce Young only started 12 games in the 2024 campaign. We also know the first two games were by far his worst games, and we're going to get into the breakdown. But from right here, just looking at this, you can see that Bryce Young's performance overall, the overall body of work in less games, was a much better performance than what we saw during his 2023 campaign. So already making leaps and bounds. But let's take it a little bit further and start to dive into the stats. So we know for Bryce Young, he had a terrible start. I mean, absolutely bad. I don't think anyone could have predicted that it would have been this bad, but it was, folks. You go back and look at the New Orleans game, he was 13 of 30, 43.3% completion percentage, 2 interceptions, did not have a passing touchdown, 161 yards, 5.14 yards per attempt, a 32.8 passer rating, sacked 4 times, had 1 rushing touchdown. And that was it. It was a bad day. We bounce ahead, and again, remember he starts the season throwing an interception. You look ahead to the Chargers. He's 18 of 26, actually decent completion percentage. He just wasn't throwing the ball down the field. 69.2% completion percentage, 84 yards, 0 touchdowns to 1 interception, 3.2 yards per attempt. Not good. And a 57.2 passer rating, sacked twice. It was bad. And this is what led to the benching. Like, he looked overwhelmed. Some wonder would have it been beneficial for Bryce Young to play in the preseason? Probably. Because even though a limited amount of time, he was going against backups. So I think it would have been beneficial. I'm curious to see if he plays more in the preseason this upcoming year. But it wasn't good, folks. I mean, so 56% completion percentage, 122 yards per game, about a 1.5 interceptions per game, 4.3 yards per attempt, and a 45 passer rating. It was bad. So then we fast forward and take a look at his production post benching. And it takes a little bit of time to get there. But overall, the improvement, and we saw it on the field, we saw it in his confidence, his ability to use his legs, to get out of the pocket, to extend plays, to step up into the pocket. It's night and day. And the other thing that's night and day is his production as a runner, hands down. So looking at where he landed, of course, much better. We're going to look at an easier version of this. So don't worry. We've got a comparison of pre and post benching that we'll take a look at. But solid performance. So bump that number up. I mean, almost doubles pre-benching and post-benching yards per game, 210 yards, a 61.9% completion percentage. This is about 1.5 touchdowns passing per game. Again, he didn't have any. We know all of his passing touchdowns came here post-benching at 15, and about 0.6 interceptions, 6.59 yards per attempt. Again, much better than where he was, in an 89 passer rating. Only sacked about 2 times per game, and then did a lot with his legs. Ended up with, 6 rushing touchdowns. Did have a few fumbles down the stretch, but overall, really good day. And we know about his 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns game in the finale against the Falcons. First quarterback in Panthers history to do that, which is wild considering you have Cam Newton. Let's make it a little bit easier. Again, pre-benching for Bryce Young in 2 starts, 122 yards per game, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 56.25% completion percentage, 45 passer rating. In the post-benching, 210 yards, again, almost double yards per game, 15 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And folks, I would recommend going out and watching the video that I've created for us analyzing his interceptions, because I would say 2 or 3 in particular probably not on him. So his number probably closer to 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for the year if a few plays don't go his way. 61% completion percentage and an 88 passer rating. Significant. I mean, almost doubles the passer rating as well. We saw it. It was in his confidence, his ability to deliver the ball down the field, take shots downfield. And this is all while you have some receivers, if you really get a few others, not making his plays. And to mention, Adam Thielen was out for some of the time, as well as Deontay Johnson traded and Jonathan Mingo. So the core group of guys that he thought he would have as pass catchers going into this year were not available. So I think hands down it was a very good performance. So let's compare 2023 Bryce with the Bryce Young that we saw to close out the season. And again, you're talking 10 starts. That's it. Yards per game, 210 versus 179. Again, almost over 30 yards improvement there. 15 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Again, in only 10 starts. 60 completion percentage. We know it's a little bit lower. We'd like to see that increase. And then a passer rating of 88.8. I know a lot of people have simulated the numbers to show like what a full season of production would look like. It does look good. I haven't done that because until I actually see it happen, I'm not going to live in a hypothetical version of Bryce Young. I want to see him do it for a season. And then, yeah, I'll have a conversation, if we're talking 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, a much more realistic view of who he is, but he's got to do it for a full season, which hopefully we'll get to see next year. But as you can see, the jump for Bryce Young, hands down, one of the best in the NFL coming down the stretch. And let's talk about it. He is the most aggressive quarterback in the NFL, and it's starting to show. Now, that's something you couldn't have said in the first 2 weeks. You couldn't have said last year. And this is according to Next Gen Stats. We are using a minimum of 12 starts, which is what Bryce had, because there's a few guys like Dak, Cooper Rush that have a little bit higher grade. But minimum of 12 start, Bryce Young is at the top. 19.8% of his passes as far as aggressiveness. And aggressiveness per Next Gen Stats tracks the amount of passing attempts a quarterback makes that are into tight coverage where there is a defender within 1 yard or less of the receiver at the time of the completion or incompletion. So this guy is fitting the ball into tight coverage. He's one of the most aggressive quarterbacks in the NFL. Just wait, or technically the most aggressive based on the number of starts. I cannot wait until this guy gets a few more weapons, gets some pass catchers that can make plays for him and doesn't drop the ball, and has a defense. Just get this man a defense and this team can win 9, 10 games. We can confidently talk about playoffs in the Carolinas. Of course, we saw it down the stretch. We want to see it continue into next year. But the aggressiveness of Bryce Young is one piece of him that's really improved in the post-benching era. Time to throw, that's been a big emphasis as well. Getting the ball out fast, the average amount of time to throw, the improvements on the offensive line. Bryce Young with 2.79 seconds. Remember, 2.7 is all that Dave Canales wanted. That's what we got to see this year. Having the ability to throw, having the confidence to step up, having the confidence and know-how to move around in the pocket when needed. All big improvements for Bryce Young this season. Absolutely. Knowing when to take a check down if it's needed, not forcing too many balls that, lead to turnovers. But this is great, man. And I think you can't talk enough about the offensive line play. Last thing, and we'll close out this episode, and we'll continue to discuss Bryce Young and get even deeper into the stat lines. But for now, we're going to wrap up this episode. So this was fun. You pull up the stats here. Bryce Young is one of 3 quarterbacks that have 2 or more touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown in a game this season. The only other ones, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. Hurts once, Allen 3 times again. This is the regular season. You have both of those quarterbacks playing for their respective championships in their conference, NFC and AFC. Bright side, upside for Bryce Young is there. And the other thing we can talk about with his aggressiveness, with his shots downfield, a lot of it, and it's probably hard for you to read there, but a lot of it having to do with also with the pressure that he's facing. So 1 week after facing pressure at a career high against the Buccaneers, 68.6%, Bryce Young was pressured on just 15% of his dropbacks in the Panthers win over the Falcons. That was the lowest of his career. Young completed 23 of 30 attempts when not under pressure for 237 yards and 3 of his touchdowns. Young also added 2 touchdowns on the ground, which we talked about, resulting in the most total EPA generated by any Panthers quarterback in a game in the Next Gen Stats era. EPA is a new stat that I've been trying to track and get my head around as well, but that is a significant number. So you went from towards last year, beginning of the season, and even when he came back post benching, pressure, 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 blitz, 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 get in his face, to Bryce Young just being able to stand back, deliver, get the ball out, making plays, whether it was with his feet, extending the play, knowing where to go to the ball before the receiver's even out of the break. That's the type of Bryce Young that we thought we were getting. That's the type of Bryce Young that we expected to have here in Carolina. So I think, again, it's just setting the footprint and the foundation for what should be a really big third year for the Carolina Panthers. Because you're going to get through this third year, and then you got to start talking about or thinking about fifth-year option, which seems like the plausible case now. But as you talk about a franchise quarterback, that it's going to be at the top of your mind. So anyways, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode discussing Bryce Young. Lots of content to come. If you're still here and tuned in, please hit that subscribe button. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.